Hello, everybody. This is Darren Redmond on the Darren Redmond Podcast, Episode 1. It used to be called the Again for the First Time Podcast. We changed the name. Why? People constantly say, Hey, Darren, when's your next podcast? Hey, Darren. So just call it what people call it anyway. I'm here again for the first time, but it's the Darren Redmond Podcast. Why not have a guest who's an old friend, somebody that we know? And as we round into, listen, it's almost hockey season already. People are, returning to the ice. People are returning to the teams that signed up. Some aren't. Uh, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Fresno Grizzlies as well. Brian Rivera is my guest. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Darren, it's great to see you, pal.
So, what you been doing yourself, first of all?
Well, I've been trying to do a little bit of, as you mentioned, a little bit of Fresno Grizzlies research. Been following the team a little bit this year, this summer,
Mm-hmm.
and then now starting to prep as players are starting showing up on the August 25th for the Fresno Monsters, and so I'll start doing some research here for them shortly and get to know the players and be prepared for the season.
And people, who don't know, Brian Rivera is the voice of the Fresno Monsters. Used to do color for them and took over the helm as the voice a few seasons ago. And he also is the person in charge of FHT Sports. He is the person who brings you, really, I think, in Fresno, the best Fresno Grizzly coverage out there. You truly do. I'm not just saying that. You get interviews, you get behind the scenes, not just scores. There's a lot of people who just give the scores and that's it. You talk about the development of these players. We get to know them, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But when did you start this? You're a very good storyteller. When did that happen? How did that happen? And what were your influences?
I don't know. It's just, I think, just as I've experienced sports through hockey,
Hmm.
baseball, and then being around behind the scenes of both of those sports, it's just I guess it's just something that I just kind of fell into that I guess I'm pretty good at or have a knack for.
I mean, people know this. I know you personally. I would say you're giving yourself a little bit of a short shift there because, one thing that I think, and it's not that I was looking for this answer, but you always respect the games and you always ask questions and you ask questions of the people who love the games, whether it's your uncles taking you to San Francisco Giant games and you share stories. And you could tell that when you're behind the mic, whether you're covering the Grizzlies or doing the play-by-play with the Monsters, you're a wonderful storyteller and you don't force it.
Well, and I guess some of it is too, as I said, I'm always willing to learn about each sport, right?
Hmm.
I don't proclaim to be, and I never will proclaim to be the know-it-all of anything
Right.
because as far as I'm concerned, you can never stop learning. And even, you talk about that today, and we'll get into it later with the Grizzlies. But I was talking with their coach during batting practice one of the days, and they were doing some drills and things that I thought I knew what they were working on,
Hmm.
but it ended up being completely different. And he gave me the explanation for it. And I don't think I would have, obviously, wouldn't have known it just by observing. I had to ask the question of why they were doing it.
So let's unpack some of that a little bit. We'll start with the Monsters from last year. They had a nice run. They got to nationals again, and they actually, they went farther than they have previously. So that was wonderful. Talk about the end of the season. Um, did they match where you thought they'd be? What they're doing kind of off season? Maybe some new stuff that's going on. What can you tell us without giving away too much?
I thought their season ended kind of where really kind of thought they were going to be. And that's no disrespect to anybody in our organization, because I definitely, being a part of the organization, is not going to talk bad about the organization.
Hmm.
But California hockey is different than Colorado hockey, than
Hmm.
Minnesota hockey, than Michigan hockey, New York hockey, and even out in Massachusetts.
Hmm.
Those, all different styles of hockey. And because we're one of the youngest group, I wouldn't say groups, but youngest as far as playing the sport, because
Hmm.
obviously the East Coast is much older in age as far as development of the country.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a different style of hockey that it's hard to get used to in basically 3 games to make the semifinals. So
Right.
you really have to be, you really have to be on top of your game. And the Monsters, in my opinion, and I think they put a little bit too much pressure on themselves once they got to nationals. That, oh man, it's nationals, and I think if I talk to them again this year and they ask my opinion, I'd be more willing to say, hey, we're going to make it to the end of the year tournament,
Right.
right, or something, and take the word nationals out of it. So there's a lot of maybe that unforeseen extra pressure that they put on themselves because of the word nationals.
Hmm. Well, that's sort of that John Wooden principle, right? The way that he used to go about it. Play today's game. Doesn't matter what it is. Play your game.
Yeah,
Win today and move on till tomorrow. That's all it is. There's no labels. It's not the semifinals. It's not the finals. It's today's game.
which is really weird because, as you know, you have, well, he's not a teenager anymore, but you had a teenager. He's a little older
Mhm.
now, but they live right here in front of their face,
Yep.
right? They don't worry about, a lot of them don't worry about what they're going to do tomorrow
Hmm.
or what they is scheduled tomorrow. They live for that next 5 seconds right in front of their face, which is, but I think they go to nationals. They're like, oh man, well, if we do this, this, and this, we're
Right.
going to be here. And I
Hmm.
think if they go back to just like you said, and the way I would approach it is, let's take today for what it is, and we'll worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow,
So we had some players age out. Some players maybe went other places. What can you tell us about the way the team's shaping up this year? Key losses, key additions.
we're gonna we lost some key players, a key defenseman in Jesse Newton. He decided to stay in Finland and start his working career, which is going to hurt our defensive core quite a bit because now because Jesse didn't come back, his partner didn't come back, so now we're
Mhm.
having to, we had to find two more defensemen that we didn't have to count on finding. But then on the other side, we've replenished the forwards with some players that are, the way we've been told, are better than some of the players we've had in the past that have set records here in Fresno.
Oh, wow.
So we could have some really dynamic forwards that can put the puck in the net.
I
But
love hearing that.
yeah, and I see the roster. Ownership showed me the roster last week, but of course I didn't do any of the recruiting, so all I can see is a
Stats.
name,
Hmm.
and not even stats, just names. And I recognize some of the names, and they're dynamite hockey players. So uh, as of looking at it on paper, our team is looking really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, you know how I feel about the Monsters and my love for them and working alongside them. But wearing the um, podcaster's hat that I have, I just have to say this: Fresno's a wonderful place to play. I mean, you have a wonderful fan base, great ownership, and talk a little bit about the fans there. They're wild. That place is sold out every night.
Oh my gosh, the playing in Fresno and at Gateway Ice Center where there's
Hmm.
very few bleacher seats, but tons of standing room where you can be right up against the glass and it makes it very intimidating
Hmm.
place to play for your first time going there. And of course our fans are one that, I mean, they're blue collar, so they
Hmm.
like hard work, they like the physical play, but they also love it when we put 10, 12 goals on the board as we have in the past.
Hmm.
So you kind of get it from both sides. You get it because they're raucous and they're on the team about giving up goals. But then another time, if it starts to get physical, the Monsters can usually match that pretty well, and that still keeps the fans
Yep.
engaged in the game, and it still makes a tough place to play.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
and
and then with the ownership, he loves those players like they're his own kids and would do anything for them. And that's you know, at this level when these kids are coming from Sweden,
mhm.
Finland, Norway, Czechoslovakia, they have someone that comes and they come 6,000 miles. It's to have ownership group or an ownership that cares about the player. It's really great that it's that way.
And I'll say this: everything you said, I exclamation point, agree with it. Uh, but and here's the thing, like, because you and I interact with the fans a lot, and they will trash, chirp an opposition player, but they will show that opposition player some respect when they show some skills out there, some grittiness, some toughness. Because we've seen a few players that we would chirp, that they would get chirped by our player. Once they came here, they're like, "I knew you were great." Like the back and forth and good talk, and
Yeah.
it's just they respect the game.
Yes, they do. There's a lot of good fans that you kind of look at them and go, man, they don't know hockey,
Right.
but then you watch them interact with everybody, and they may not know the intricacies of the game, but they can definitely respect the visiting team for the effort and the
Well,
way
you
they
mentioned
play
it,
the
the
game.
blue collar, the hard work. They represent that. They really acknowledge that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've gotten between my partner Kala and I, we've gotten multiple emails from the other teams. Oh, you guys do such a great job about talking about our grandson who's goalie for the other team. Who you guys really put it to him, but you always talk about the effort he gave, and everything like that. And that's part of what makes hockey hockey, right? Is you like to see the effort regardless of what the score is.
You respect the game, you respect the player. I mean,
Yeah,
it just
absolutely.
comes down to that. And the fan and the box, meaning you guys,
Yeah.
the press box. Speaking of that, you have a very tough job, you and Kala, because you're talking to your home team, but you're really talking to the visitors. And, it's very easy to throw platitudes out there to say, oh, the goalie's doing a great job, but you're very specific to name the kid. You mentioned, like, here's
Yeah.
why he's doing a great job. You
Yeah.
put in the effort. What is that like? I mean,
Yeah.
how much
It,
prep do you guys do? And what is a week? So here it's Tuesday, the next game's Thursday. Walk me through what you and Claude do.
well, I start on Monday night after I get off of my regular job. I'll come home and I'll look at the previous. Well, I'll look at this week's opponent and see how they did the week before,
Right.
and I'll put some notes. I'll put their stats on a sheet of paper for Claw and I to have, so we know that number 27's got 18 goals and 40 assists, and you know, so and so goalie had two shutouts this weekend or the past weekend, or he's got a 197 goals against average or something like
Mhm.
that. And I'll start putting the numbers together. So when we walk in the booth on Thursday, we feel prepared that we know how both teams have been playing the past couple of weeks, because we'll know that in the last 10 games the opponents 4-6 and the Monsters may be 9-1, or
Right.
but also know that the opponents played some tougher teams than the Monsters have. So the records really don't mean anything because these two teams are playing each other for the first time.
Right.
So
And
I do a
and
lot
that
of
must feel good when you get those emails from the opposing players'
yeah,
families.
because I mean, like I said, we don't. I don't know for the recognition. I just do it because I enjoy the sport of hockey. And
Mhm.
even when I was doing color with John formerly, even at that point, I was like, I don't even know if I want to do it because I just wanted to enjoy being at the game.
Right.
But talking with John, talking with you, they were like, you guys were like, no, you need to get involved a little bit and share your insight because you got that insight of the Monsters from being a coach, playing in the former leagues that they played in, so and you pushed me a little bit to do it because, like I said, I really didn't want to do it. I just wanted to enjoy the game. But as each year's gone on, I've gotten more and more comfortable. Some of my neighbors across the street, they give me, they critique me a little bit. They're like, "Well, you're not too explosive in your language when you don't really get too excited about the game." And I think for me, that's still something I'm kind of developing because I'm not sure how it goes. And sometimes, to be quite honest, with the view that we have for most of the game, it's hard to see stuff that happens right away. So I'm always a little bit behind where I can't have that maybe actual assignment of seeing the puck going in the net right away and show that excitement that's there.
So your booth, without giving away too many industry secrets, there's you, there's Clyde, there's Anthony, as kind of working as a team. How much do you think the fact that you guys know each other for years helps make that broadcast what it is?
I think honestly, I think that's the best part about it is because we know each other and we can be ourselves to each other, and we can have, Claw and I are both Avalanche fans, so we can make a comment about that and know where each other's,
Right.
feel about that because we always, come in before and we on the TV before we turn our TV on, our camera on for our game. We're watching hockey in the
Mhm.
NHL, whatever game's on TV, and a lot of the time it is the Avalanche. Or I got my laptop on, and it's everybody think we're looking at monster stuff. No, we're out of the corner of our eye watching the
Right.
Avalanche game while the monsters are playing.
But
So
you,
but I just think, yeah, the fact that we know each other, we're comfortable with each other, and we know each other's sense of humor.
yes.
Some of the nights it goes off the rails, and we feel bad because there may be 10, 15 minutes where we don't talk about the game because we're just cracking jokes about stuff, and we're like,
Because you're real. But that's people like that because you're real, right? But
if you
I
know,
can tell you, I'll tell you something, people. Some of the stuff that goes on and the funniest stuff you'll never hear, not because they're muted, they give each other these looks,
yeah,
eye rolls,
yeah,
like
we
deadpan stares.
the best one that always gets me is, you know we'll be sitting there and the owner come into the booth and he's standing behind us, but he's able to watch, and a puck will go out of play and we'll make some, like the last joke for the last few years has been, oh, turn the puck into the skate counter and get a signed 12-month calendar of Jeff Blair, and get
Right,
like the Claw did it the first time, just right off the hip.
right.
And I I laughed for about 5 minutes while the play was going on. I couldn't regroup myself
Yeah.
to get to play my play going right there. And I can see on the corner of my eye, Jeff just rolling his eyes, shaking his head, going, "You sons of a."
Which makes it funnier.
Oh yeah, which makes it that much better. You
Oh, that's
know,
great.
yeah.
So, um, so anything else you want to share about the Monsters before we move to the Grizzlies?
Um, just that we talking with ownership, talking with Jeff, that he's trying to right now design us a little bit better vantage point to watch the game. So
Oh, that's a nice little teaser. That's a nice little
we,
teaser.
he says it's going to get done. Knowing Jeff and being honest, I'm a little hesitant, but if he does what he says it's going to do, I really think it's going to enhance our production of the game.
I
Taught
mean,
we had a league wide call meeting yesterday for the new broadcast service, or the streaming service that we're going to use, and the different things that they have and the different capabilities that we might be able to have. And I know Jeff likes being at the forefront of that stuff.
Well,
Different,
I mean, you have
different camera
multi,
angles,
yeah, you have
different things
multi
to start.
cameras, all of that. I mean, you guys are really cutting edge. You
Yeah,
really are.
we're working.
Telestrators, everything.
Yeah, we managed to find a telestrator last year that we tried to use on one game, but we didn't know how to use it, but we used it anyway. And it looked like a kindergartner was drawing on the
Well,
screen because we were
well, on
we
a
were, we were
trampoline.
so off. We were so off on the locations, but it was still worth trying. So we need
So,
to figure out some things there.
before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about the Grizzlies because you've been really spearheading, in my opinion. Fresno has a wonderful Class A baseball team in the Fresno Grizzlies with the Colorado Rockies, and I think that your coverage is the best there is. Because I really do, and it's no shame against the Fresno Bee, but where are you? There's no shame against the other people. You are the one that's really reporting who these players are, their background, a lot more than the scores. Talk about that. I mean, because you've been doing that for quite a number of years now. You get these nice interviews, usually in the dugout. Talk about your thoughts with that and how you make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, with your help before you moved to the East Coast, we there was an event happening there, and you were like, "Yeah, contact them. You know the event that's happening.
Hmm.
Contact the media relations guy or the play-by-play guy, and see if we can get started." And we did, and we did our thing, and then we kind of talked later that summer, and it was like, you know what, we need to start interviewing some players, and I hit it off with the play-by-play announcer at the
Well,
time,
that
and
was you. You took it next level. You did a great job
yeah,
with that.
and he was very open to it, and he had a lot of ideas about which guys to interview and things like that. And I've just kind of stuck with it. They have a new guy this year, and he's not against doing the same thing. It's just a little bit different process, and it makes it a little tougher sometimes. But doing a little bit of research, like I said, 3 or 4 days, 5 days to do a little bit of research about the player, get an interview, and find out a little bit about their background, where they played, things like that. Then getting to meet them and do the interview, and then they kind of notice you the rest of the year because now you're a familiar face to some of them. That's a new place to them. Right?
Right.
None of them have been to Fresno before. They don't know anybody. They just know their teammates, and not that we or I go out and hang out with them, but I'm always at the stadium, and they're, hey, how's it going, Brian? Hey,
Right.
Steve, how you doing this week? How was the trip last week? And it gives them a little bit of interaction with somebody that's other than their teammates, and over if they spend a little more than a year there, or they interact with you every day, by the time you get a little bit of a friendship going, and then you become, you know, you become rooting for them and be like, man, I hope he's such a good dude. I hope he's so successful at the next level.
Now, speaking of that, I mean, and this is really a feather in your cap. Um, there's quite a few people that you've seen play over the years who are now in the show, and a couple of them that you interviewed back in the day, back then. How does that feel for you?
It, I That's something that I've always, I don't want to say like was like make note of, but I always like, hey, I interviewed this guy. Let's see how he's doing this year. Oh man, he's jumped, and I was like, well, that's cool. I know him a little bit, and
Mhm.
I hope they don't, try to contact them. But I watch it, like just this year alone, I think there might be 7 or 8 guys from 2+ years ago that are playing on the Rockies this year, and I've interviewed maybe 2 or 3 of them.
That's got to feel great.
Um, So yeah, and like I said, it's cool that you know, like one of the pitchers, he's on the IL right now, but
Mhm.
after I interviewed him, every day I was at the stadium in Fresno there. It was like, hey man, how's it? He come up and shake my hand, give me a fist
Mhm.
bump. Hey man, how's it going? How was your day today? And we just had
Yeah.
that little kinship that was pretty cool to see after just a quick, you know, little 8 to 10 minute interview that they just keep noticing. And even this year, three or four of the three of the ones I've interviewed are already up in high A this year. They didn't even
That's
make it
great.
a full year, you know, down at the low level A, and they're on their way up.
I mean, just kind of recap for those who really don't know. And again, because I love the Fresno Grizzlies, love their relationship with the Rockies. It's very professional. The nutrition and all that stuff we've talked about in the past. But talk about how, yeah, winning is important, but it's really all about development. You want to get these people into high A, double A. Sometimes you hurt your team's win loss because you got to get these people up. You got to move them to double A, triple A, eventually the pros.
Yeah, I mean that's really their goal. Is quite honestly, you don't want to see, to be honest, you don't want to see them there for much more than I would say a goal for a majority of them is, man, I only want to spend half a year here or 2/3 of a year here,
Right.
and I want to be at the high A before the season ends. But you definitely don't want to see them stuck. I wouldn't even say stuck, but multiple years
Hmm.
in Fresno because, and I'm not sure many people are aware. Once you're drafted and signed by the organization, you only have 5 years to stay with that organization. You know, and you get some of these kids that are signed in the Dominican,
Hmm.
in you know, Venezuela, Curacao, all those at 17, 18 years old. Like they just drafted Matt Holiday's son in the first round this year out of high school. Okay, yeah, he's got an NHL dad pedigree, but the kid is 18 and signed, and so by 23, you know, if he's not poking his head into AAA,
He's out.
he might be on his way out already. And just to think
Yeah.
about, you know, and it's not even just the Grizzlies. We're there taking pictures. We're on both sides of the diamond. We make contact with some of the visiting teams, and even like one of the guys I took some pictures of during one of his at bats, and got some really cool pictures. And I showed it, you know, and after the game, I was like, "Hey man, look at this picture I got." He's like, "Cool, man. Send it to me. You know, send it to me on social." I'll be like, "Okay." And then you go and you look back at him, and like he's from the Dominican. Last year was
Hmm.
his fifth year, and he had only made it to single A, and now he's still playing baseball, but he's back in Latin
Independent.
America. You
Yeah.
know, back at home playing, and you know, I thought he was a pretty good player that maybe just didn't get the right opportunity, which happens all too
Yeah,
frequently in
and
any
by the
sport.
way, it's sometimes, and again, metaphorically speaking, you could be a wonderful player. 5 years is not that long, but if they, let's just pick a team. Let's say you're a Colorado Rocky fan. Let's just say, and they have a glut of third basemen, and you're a third baseman. Sometimes it's not just you got to find another team because there's just no room at the inn. It
Exactly.
happens. Doesn't mean that you're not a good player. I mean, there's so
Well,
many different things that go into it.
yeah, I mean, just okay. So let's put it for the Rockies, for example, right? In the last 4 years, they've drafted or has come through Fresno a shortstop that's moved on to the next level every year,
Hmm.
right? And right now, it's I want to say his name is Ezekiel Tovar.
Hmm.
He was in Fresno, you know, and then the year after that there was um, Andy Perez, and then there's this kid Ryan Ritter, and now there's another one, Diane Jorge, and now there's another one, you know,
Hmm.
uh, Worldy Brito, and then there's another one, and it's just like they're just loading up shortstop after shortstop. And of course, yeah, shortstop can play third base, and been a shortstop, and his name is Kelvin Hidalgo. He played the majority of shortstop. He's moved over to third base and platoons there, and then there's been some that have moved over to second base. But you're looking at it at some point, once you become a major leaguer and you become established, you don't give that spot up. So where do you go? You get stuck in
Right.
AAA, right? Or you become a backup and play every fourth or fifth day. You're it's just wild that I've seen these dynamic players all come up at shortstop the last 4 years, and all they have Adael Amador, who was before Andy Perez, and he's in AAA now, and Andy's in AA, and there's other kids in high A, and then there's these kids here in low A, and it's just like, where are they going to go at some point?
That's
You
true.
know?
And you've also seen these guys develop. Where they're going to go? It's not easy, people.
No,
It's not. But you also have probably some. I seen this kid went, and they went
yeah,
through and had to go through all that. And um, so before I let you
I've kind of,
go, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, yeah, I've kind of started looking at the schedule now. Being that I'm a Giants fan, I'm looking at the Giants schedule, going, "Oh man, so and so's up in Colorado. When is Colorado coming to San Francisco? Am I gonna be able to go to a game and go see and go hang
Right.
out on the Colorado side and see if the guys, if they remember me from Fresno and
You
things
know
like
what? I'm sure they will because you were probably the first real interview. Do you know what I mean? Or
yeah,
those kind of things, and that's
yeah,
great. You know. So there's no rest for you, huh? Between baseball and hockey and just
yeah.
and your real time job, and
Yeah. I mean, the Grizzlies thing is, they play 6 game series. I go to 4 or 6 of the games.
mhm.
Or sorry, I go to 3 of 6. I go to half the games every homestand, and it's neat. You become, as much as you're the media guy or a media guy, it's really all just a big family there. Everybody is so welcoming, and they acknowledge you every time you walk in the door, or they walk in the door, and
Yeah,
it's a cool little vibe.
I hope the Fresno Grizzlies fan base knows how lucky they are to have the Colorado Rocky team and with each other because and it's a beautiful stadium. It really is. So that's great. Um, my one question for you before I let you go is, well, actually, I want to prep you for the next time I have you on the show. Next time, I want to talk a little bit about the Sharks. What's going on there? So be ready for that. Maybe you can give us a quick little teaser because I need more fans in that. I know you don't believe they're ever going to leave there, and I get that, but we should be getting more than 12 to 13,000 a night, in there. And I want to talk to you about NIL and is that going to take away from the minor league programs? Because kids can stay in college now and get paid and get an education. So maybe you want to give us a little teaser on both, real quick.
Yeah, I think with the Sharks, they got accustomed to having the veteran team that was constantly winning and being in the playoff picture and making runs at the Stanley Cup. Right now, that they got, even though they're in their 30th year this year, believe it or not, I think it is, or somewhere close, that they've just gotten a little too spoiled. I think they had their success. Did they struggle at the beginning? Yeah, but their sustained success over the last 10, 12 years has kind of blurred their vision of where their hockey team really is this year.
Gotcha.
They have some great players coming up, and they got great kids like Celebrini and Will Smith, and they're on that development stage again, and it's going to be maybe another year or two before they're back on that playoff hunt. And at the same time, because they had all that success, and I think the ticket prices are kind of gone a little out of
Me
skew of
too.
what it should be for the product they're providing now, and not be
Right.
so much on the on the past success teams.
And then just give us a little teaser on the NIL college. You
You
know,
know, the NIL thing is a weird deal to me, and I just because every university could spend a different amount of how
yep.
much they want on any player in any sport. And you look at like these single A players that maybe aren't drafted in the top 5 rounds, so they get a good contract or a good signing bonus. Then it may be like it may be worth for them to stay in college and get that extra whatever money they can earn from a car dealership advertisement or
Mhm.
something. It's just I really think it depends on your location and your stardom.
Yeah, it's to be continued, right? I mean,
Sure,
think about
absolutely.
it. We will talk about that. But thank
Yeah.
you for being my guest today. This is great. And I don't know where you are, but it looks really nice.
Yeah, I got a great little view here out in Massachusetts. And the
Oh,
weather's nice.
nice.
Got a nice little breeze outside. And great little place.
Love that. We will talk soon. Thank you for being my guest on episode 1 of the Darren Redmond podcast.
All right, Darren, take it easy. We'll talk soon, my friend.
Bye now.